Hi folks, Barın Kayaoğlu here. You must have seen the images coming out of the White House from that summit on Ukraine that involved not only President Trump and President Zelensky, but several European leaders. Especially these two photos, as well as some fake ones that lit up the internets. Now, I personally don't think that those images that came out of the White House earlier this week are nearly as embarrassing as the ones that came out last month from that trade tariff deal between President Trump and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. And with respect to the White House summit on Ukraine, European leaders kind of walked into that one. That meeting was originally supposed to be bilateral between Trump and Zelensky, but the European leaders decided to join the Ukrainian president to save him from another session of verbal bullying at the hands of Trump and U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. That's why especially the image at the Oval Office looked like a teacher holding a makeup exam for students who missed the original exam.
Ursula, stop looking around. Focus on your own paper, okay? You're already in trouble for plagiarizing. Don't make me fail you this course. No, Georgia, not you, dear. You're already passing this course, right? You know that, because you're my favorite Milani. And for the rest of you, if you want to get good grades in this class, you need to click like on this video, subscribe to Barın Kayaoğlu's channel, and turn on notifications.
And that really explains why Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan did not show up at that White House meeting, even though Turkey has also supported Ukraine and, unlike most European countries, has also mediated between Kyiv and Moscow. So we got a puzzle here. On the one hand, Turkey has been a prominent player in mediating between Ukraine and Russia, and it has supported Ukraine, and yet it was not at the White House. And add to that the fact that President Erdoğan has been signaling for some time that he expects an invitation to the White House to sort out issues between his country and the United States, especially with respect to defense sanctions and bilateral commerce. Then it becomes even more interesting for why he didn't show up, and why indeed. For one, Erdoğan has quite a strong nose, actually, for these sorts of photo ops, when he's not going to be the center of attention or he's not going to receive the proper respect, the proper deference that he expects needs to be deferred to the president of Turkey. Of course, if things don't go his way, the Turkish president still keeps his cool. A very prominent and publicly visible example of this was in March 2020 when he showed up at the Kremlin to discuss Syria with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who made him wait at the door of the meeting room for several minutes and then had Russian TV crews film Erdoğan. Now, at the time, a lot of us Turks got offended, be they pro-government or pro-opposition, and I did too. I also got offended by the disrespect that was shown to my president. But I'm also an old-school realist, and I moved on, because 2 years after the Kremlin serviced those photos to Russian media outlets, Turkish drones helped the Ukrainians to blunt the Russian offensive against Kyiv in the opening rounds of the second Russian invasion of Ukraine. And 2.5 years after that, Turkish-backed rebels overthrew Putin's lapdog in Syria, Bashar Assad. The second reason why Turkey did not attend that White House summit on Ukraine, despite its being supportive of Ukraine, Ankara has refused to recognize Russian annexation of Ukrainian territory, the Donbas, Crimea, etc. And the Turkish government denied Russian warships access to the Black Sea in 2022. Turkey is still neutral in this conflict. It's neutral on the side of Ukraine, but neutral nonetheless. Ankara has brisk trade with Moscow, and it wants to maintain those ties within Russian markets for the time when Western sanctions are lifted and Turkish companies can enjoy a first-mover advantage. That was the reason why Turkey joined only a few of the sanctions against Russia, and we can expect that to continue for the foreseeable future, no matter who's in power here in Ankara. That's it, folks. Thank you for watching, and let me know in the comments below what you think about the Ukraine summit in the White House. I'll see you soon.